Like, say, for instance, like human slavery, that went on for a very long period of time, right?
Hmm.
I mean, do you think the time that slavery went on made slavery ethical?
At the time, yes.
All right. So my name's Cole, right?
All right,
And
Cole.
I'm an animal rights activist. What's your name?
Good night.
Kanai? Nice
Yeah.
to meet you. So you saw the sign, it says, "Why aren't you vegan?"
Yeah.
And your response was, "I like meat," right?
Yeah.
So why do you like meat?
I mean, listen here, man. I've been eating meat all my life. I like chicken. I like steak. I like pork. Shoot, I eat pig from the rooter to the tutor. You understand what I'm saying? Give me the snout. Give me the chitlins. Give me all that. I love a pig. I love burger meat. You can't go wrong with a chicken leg, a thigh, a breast, hell, I eat, shit, I eat the gristle off a chicken.
Okay. So so I guess we could say that you like the taste of animal products, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I did too. Like I ate meat for 24 years, right?
Hmm?
But when I found out like what was happening to animals, one, I don't look at animals as objects because when people eat their bodies, we're objectifying them. We're saying they're an object to use for our purposes rather than they have their own thoughts, feelings, and desires. Would you agree that animals like have their own thoughts, feelings, and desires?
I would say that, but
Come on, to the mic.
okay. If we're going to say we have living things that have feelings and desires, they say plants are alive. So if that's the case, our plants have feelings and desires and want to grow and fruition, and we stop it and eat it. So I'm not gonna stop eating meat.
Yeah.
Kill it just like I kill a plant. Cause I like salad. I'll kill a plant. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with like killing plants because unlike animals, plants don't have a brain. They don't have pain receptors either. So plants can't feel pain. 95% of plant biologists agree with this. And you
What
know,
about
the
the
other
5%?
they're probably agnostic, on it that they don't really know. They don't think that they do, but most of them I would say were just like, maybe,
Yeah.
you know. But because they don't have a brain and they don't have pain receptors, most people agree that plants don't have feelings. A second response to that is you may be unaware of this, but in the US, right, our two major crops are like soy and corn. And 70% of soy is fed to animals. So when animals like eat these crops, right, they
Yeah.
only turn a tiny amount of the plants that they're fed back into edible calories. So it actually takes more plants when people are eating animals than when vegans eat like, just plant based.
I mean, I do like, and see, that's great actually information. I'm glad I know that now. So that means that my animal that I'm going to kill soon and eat is eating healthy. So now I know that I'm getting some good, fresh, healthy meat from the animal. And personally, I just can't see a problem with it. First of all, we've been eating animals for decades. And if we want to get a little biblical with it, it's allowed now. Before, God didn't want, he was a little harsh on it. Now it's allowed. Eat those animals. You get a lot of protein from it too. That's what we're not. With my plant based, I mean, I guess you can get whatever they want to inject with it. But if I get the actual meat from a cow, like a steak from a cow, then I'm gonna get that nice original protein that I want to go through my bloodstream.
Well, there's also protein in plant-based foods. Lots of soy, quinoa, plenty of other plant-based foods are complete proteins. They have all the amino acids that we need. There's vegan bodybuilders out there even. Namai Delgado, Patrick Baboumian, they're massive. They're some of the strongest people in the world and they only eat plants, right? So another thing that you mentioned is that we've been eating animals for a very long time, right?
Yeah, just about forever.
Yeah. Do you think that the length of time a practice has been occurring just makes a practice ethical? Like, say, for instance, like human slavery, that went on for a very long period of time, right?
Hmm.
I mean, do you think the time that slavery went on made slavery ethical?
At the time, yes, because that's what folks thought where we had workers They didn't see slaves as humans or as people. They saw them as workers. Just how I see animals as food. So at the time, yeah, you're gonna think that's ethical. You're gonna think that's right because you're conditioned to. But I mean, you can have a changing point. That's how. But you can't compare slavery to animals. Slavery is humans.
Yeah.
We're people.
I'm not comparing slavery to animals. I'm just comparing the logic that's used, right? Because slavery has been going on for thousands of years. We've been eating animals for thousands of years, right?
Yeah. But
And
you can't compare those.
I mean,
because of situations.
do you really think the length of time that something happens makes it ethical or not? I mean, do you think that slavery is ethical?
Given the situation, it can be. Just like I said, at the time, people didn't see a problem wrong with slavery. You wouldn't see that wrong because you see it so much and it's common. But I mean, on the side of it, you knew that it was wrong. When it comes to eating food, food is a different thing. Food has give you nutrients. You can't compare those two topics. No matter even if it's just the ideas, those two topics wouldn't match up there. So that's just
Well, we're just talking about the length of time, right?
yeah. But you're comparing slavery to food. That's not going to match, no matter where you put it.
Well, let's look at another practice, right? Like murder. You know, murder's been going on since the dawn of time.
Yeah, but nobody knew why they did it. No, murder isn't something that we just, I murdered you, and that's what we're going to continue to do because he murdered, I murdered, they murder. No, we don't murder because we just see another person murder. We murder because of a desire. That's why we have first, second, and third degree murders.
Yeah. But yet we're killing animals and we're depriving them of rights because we see people in society or people who aren't vegan. I won't say we because I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But people who aren't vegan are looking at other people exploiting animals and they think it's okay. Just like people in the times of slavery were looking at other slave owners and saying that slavery's okay, everybody's doing it because, don't you think that society can be wrong about something, about their treatment of others?
They can be wrong about treatment of others when we're talking in a judicial sense. But when we have to get down to a food, we're talking about food. Food is a thing that we need naturally that we have been doing that has occurred. When you're using an animal for nutrients, you're feeding yourself, you're feeding your temple. We can't compare that. I'm not comparing slavery to that. You're saying that you're comparing the length of time and all that, but yet you keep going back to slavery, and I don't like that because you can't compare slavery to food. When we're talking about food, we're talking about literally what we're eating, what we're ingesting, what we're going to fill our bodies with. So the connection there won't connect for me at all.
Yeah.
But when it gets down to food, on a food product standpoint, meat as a sense is what we use as nutrients. In fact, and when I leave this interview, I'm gonna go get some chicken.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, right? Chickens, they feel pain like we do.
Yeah.
They're alive like us.
Yeah.
They even experience emotions, maybe not at the same depth as we do, but they have an inner emotional life. Do you think it's wrong to deprive an animal of their desire to live and their existence for 15 minutes of taste pleasure?
Okay, what stance are you going to give them for life?
Because we can eat plants to be healthy and survive. I've been doing it for 8+ years.
That's fine. When we have animals, what length are you giving them? What are they going to do? What's their goal?
Well, do humans have to have a goal in order for us to respect a human's right to live?
A lot of times.
If not, what trait will differentiate that from like a chicken?
Okay, so as a human, for our goals, we have a standing point. Just like we have a grow old, have families, do things like that. A lot of animals leave their babies to fend for their own after a while. Like literally,
But a lot of humans do that too.
Well,
too,
not
don't
at
they?
not at a young age. You don't.
Some humans do.
Yeah, that's called leaving your child up for adoption and things like that. But that's a whole different standpoint.
Humans do it.
You're leaving that to send for somebody else.
So would it be okay to eat a human that abandoned their children at a young age?
Why would we get on cannibalism?
Well, I'm just asking. I mean, if that's a good enough reason to eat an animal, why isn't it good enough reason to eat a human?
Because humans have a goal, if you let me finish. A goal that we have as humans is to grow old, is to get to a standpoint where we want to be in life. Yet, for a animal such as a chicken, a deer, anything like that, what goal are they going to? What is their final standing point? Where are you taking that for them to stay? What's their final thing other than being eaten, other than being killed?
I don't think any animal has the goal of being eaten because they maintain, if you try to chase a chicken and they feel threatened, they're going to run away. The way that production works
Instinct.
now, yeah, instinct, right, right. And humans, we have that same instinct. If we feel threatened, we're going to try to avoid danger. And chickens are deprived. They can't really run away from their captors. They're crammed into these dark sheds, and most of them only live about 42 days, 40 days on average, around 6 weeks. Some of them get so big that their bodies can't support the weight, and they fall over on their own urine and feces and get chemical burns on the front of their bodies, and they experience extreme suffering, because of that. What are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, the way is we're literally conditioning them to be eaten. So when it comes to that, you're literally going through the process of what a farmhouse would do to condition to kill that animal. So that is the process. That's just there's no standpoint on that. Okay, the process of which we have to kill a chicken. But you were asking me about a standpoint I have on that animal, and you still haven't given me a point on where that animal goal would be in life.
Well, I would say that's irrelevant. And the reason I say that's irrelevant is because there are humans exist, right, that don't have any goals. Severely mentally disabled people, they don't really have the cognitive ability to think of life goals as growing older, right? But we would be terrified and we would oppose people killing and eating the severely mentally disabled for food just because they can't form goals.
Why would you bring cannibalism as the same thing as eating a animal?
I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just saying the reason for cannibalism is just as invalid as the reason that you have for eating animals.
I wouldn't say that. Our animals are the way that we have produced.
Sure.
It's the way we're going to eat. It's the way that we have conditioned.
But you would agree
ourselves.
there are humans that can't form goals on this planet, right?
Actually, a lot of your humans that you say have mentally disabled things are going on progress. A lot of them progress in different ways. A lot of them start off where they can't talk or can't move or immobility. A lot of them have that goal to let me get better, let me learn more, let me grow more. There was a lady that had Down syndrome that graduated law school. So that is invalid information on your part. There is goals for those mentally disabled people. Whether that's the smallest thing of learning how to say a word, they have a goal to get there. What goal does an animal have?
Well, one of the goals that animals have is to survive, right?
That's everyone's goal.
I know. And I mean, don't you think that it's wrong to violate an individual's desire to survive?
No, because if their desire is to survive, but they're always on a predator chase for anybody, I'll kill them and I'll put them out their misery. Now you don't have to run on this goose chase anymore. You're gone. You have no other reason to be here because you don't have to be a prey to a predator for the rest of your life because the predator has caught you.
If someone was preying on you, right? And there was a predator, maybe from another species, maybe from our own species that was trying to take your life, would you rather struggle for survival or would you rather have your life taken by the predator?
So depending on my situation, especially if I was in a situation of a chicken where I have to run around all day and keep running for the rest of my life, take me out. Why would I have to sit here and do this for the rest of my life? The rest of my life I have to run around and be in constant fear or die.
Well, and I would say this too, right? There are places to where chickens aren't treated as prey, like animal sanctuaries. A lot of people rescue chickens from these violent, abusive industries that treat them like objects and not living things, and take them to sanctuaries where they're treated as companion animals and that they don't have that fear for being preyed upon. Do you think that's better for the animal than them being preyed upon by humans and having to deal with the fear of dealing with humans?
It can be, but personally, why would that be a problem for anybody? That doesn't have to be a problem if you want it to be. They have made animal sanctuaries because they feel they want to save these chickens. But given the millions amount of chickens there is, how many are you really saving? You're saving what, 25 out of what, 400 at a time?
Yeah. Well, I think regardless of the numbers, right, it matters to that individual animal. They didn't have to go through a horrifying experience of being killed, by humans. Because what happens in the slaughterhouses and in these sheds, is terrible. and they feel a lot of pain. They experience a lot of suffering that's totally unnecessary if more people would go vegan.
No, because I've seen slaughterhouses. I've viewed it. Hell, I've helped kill a chicken. I've helped kill a deer. There's things I've witnessed and I've been in, and I have no problem with doing it again. There's, huh? But yeah, we gotta go.
Okay.
Great interview.
Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Have a good day. Yep.